You're listening to the Falconry Podcast with John Griggs and Ben Woodruff. Hello, everybody. I'm Ben Woodruff.
I'm John Griggs.
And we're here with the Falconry Podcast. We're excited today. We're going to be talking about peregrine falcons, something we're both very passionate about. But John, you want to tell them a little bit about your website and your channel?
Yeah, sure. I run a channel called Falcon's Ledge, and on this channel we review flight sims and space hardware. I am rocking some merch today. It's a prototype for a shirt that we're doing. So actually, you guys got to learn about it before my channel got to learn about it. Like I said, I review space sim hardware and flight sim hardware. I do a bit of flight videos, but I also occasionally do falconry and hunting videos. It's not really educational like Ben's. It's more along the lines of just hunting stuff. And I do plan to do some more maker-oriented stuff. Today I got some requests to show a how-to video on how to build that accipiter perch that I made that you're probably aware of, Ben.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one. It's a tail saver.
So and it's doing better than it ever has before. I've been iterating on it for years, so I'll do that. But the link is into the
description. John's a master troubleshooter. He likes to invent, and then he likes to adjust, and just keep fine-tuning anything he comes up with.
I try to. In fact, that perch that's right over here is one that I've just recently done a bunch of iteration on, and it's working really well. The Merlin over there's tail's in perfect condition since then, but the link is in the video description for my channel. And if you're interested in my falconry videos, I also occasionally do vlog on TikTok under the same name. Haven't posted in a while there, but I do plan on doing it again. I just kind of changed whether or not I'm posting birds until they've really hunted. And this one is just about ready to hunt, so.
And we're going to have links in the description of this video. So we'll have links to all your channels and get things up and going, so that'll be good. But today we're, John, talking about the best falcon there is, depending on how you look at it. But you want to talk a little bit about how you got into peregrines?
Well, whether or not peregrine falcons are the best birds is undisputed as far as I'm concerned. Now, that does not necessarily mean that that's what I'm going to fly, except I'm going to be putting down a deposit on a peregrine this year. So I will be flying the best falcon or best bird out there. So how did I get into peregrine falcons? Well, that parallels my how did I get into falconry story, which is Gene Craighead George's My Side of the Mountain.
Classic book.
I have never and will never name a bird frightful, but some people do.
I wanted to when I was a kid. I'm like, someday, and then when I got to where I could, I'm like, I can't. It's too cliche.
Yeah,
it's too cliche.
That's why it's just like, I just can't do it, because every falconer essentially is going to know exactly why you named it frightful, and that's fine.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You do you, right? But I just can't. It is a cliche, but there's lots of cliches, and we oftentimes do name our birds in manners that are cliche. Like the bird, our Merlin friend here, his name is Apollo, and Apollo is from Battlestar Galactica. Why do we name it that? Well, my wife and I are a bit nerdy, and we like Battlestar Galactica. That's also a cliche to name your birds after movie characters, so that's what it is. This one, by the way, is my wife's Merlin. Mine is behind my head.
They're out there squaring off against each other. One of them's still eating, and they're kind of like,
There she is.
She's like, buy food. You will not take this.
Well, the funny thing is it scraps from last night's food is what she's coveting over there.
Well, I think My Side of the Mountain was kind of like a gateway drug for a lot of people to get into falconry. As I've talked to a lot of other falconers, myself included, I was like you. If you haven't read the book My Side of the Mountain, I highly recommend it. It's a fictional story about a boy who goes and runs away from home and lives off the land and learns to survive and trains a peregrine falcon to get his dinner for him. And Gene Craighead George grew up surrounded by falconry. Her brothers, the Craighead twins, kind of pioneered a lot of United States falconry and were always in early National Geographic articles, pioneering new species that really hadn't been done in the New World yet until kind of that era. But that's what got me into it too. that's what made me realize a person can train a bird.
Well, here's an interesting story about my side of the mountain and kids and getting into falconry, is that recently I just had the opportunity to go to a local school that my wife used to teach at. You've done a demo there. And I walked into the room to do this little demo because, they called me because they know my wife, and went in with the female Merlin, and they were finishing the book. They were on the last page. So I got to hear them go through that, the last page of the book, and then spent an hour talking to them about falconry and falcons and
nostalgia.
It was really cool. Just the experience of knowing that they had just finished this thing, and we had gone through the whole experience of that as well, and getting to share that with them, and just the look on their faces when they saw me walk in with the bird, because they didn't know it was coming, was really cool.
That's neat because it has such an impact. When you, some people grow up around animals, but usually it's something like a pet, a dog or a cat. And it's kind of like, this is my dog. I'm taking it on a walk. It's on a leash. But I think that, especially for children, to realize that, wow, a wild animal could be trained and could fly totally free, hunt, fly, dive, and come back to you, that you could build that kind of trust and relationship and have one foot really in the whole natural world and the whole natural cycle, and one foot in the civilized world of cities and houses and jobs. It's amazing. And I think that's very much an aha moment for a lot of kids. So falcons are just one of many raptors that can be flown, right? There's falcons, there's forest hawks, accipiters, and bootios, and eagles, and owls, all kinds of things, kites, lots of things. But peregrine falcons can be flown a lot of different ways. But usually it's kind of a traditional way is called waiting on, which is where you take your bird out, take the hood off, looks around, and it's bobbing its head, rouses its feathers, and it takes off, circles up, and it hopefully goes upwind if there's any wind, and then comes back overhead, maybe a few thousand feet above you. Then you or your dogs flush up a bird, a duck, a pheasant, a grouse, and then the falcon knocks them out of the sky. Peregrine falcons are really good for that. They seem to have a knack for it. They can do it a lot better than a lot of other birds, or quicker, or more intuitively than a lot of other raptors or a lot of other falcons do. And that's why I usually like to, you're kind of this way too, John, I know, but sometimes we kind of try to avoid cliches or avoid what everybody else is into.
That's just because everyone will know, that's kind of why, is that it's like, I know why you named it that, or I know why you did it that way, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And getting a peregrine is a little bit cliche because it's like, oh yeah, that's a classic thing, right? But they are amazing. I get over myself on that one. It's like, they're incredible birds. My opinion is that for traditional style of flying, like I just described, they're the best. They're the quickest to learn it and the best at doing it consistently. And any other bird is hard. And we talked about hybrids last week. And, kind of the rule that we always say is any hybrid that you produce that has peregrine in it, putting peregrine into any other species seems to make it a better bird. So, that speaks very highly for the species. But they basically live everywhere in the world. Just about every country has them, which is unusual, which also shows they're very adaptable. I remember talking to a biologist, I believe it was when he had been in Vietnam. If I remember right, it was Southeast Asia, and I think it was Vietnam. He documented them in an area where there were no cliffs to nest on, and they were nesting in hollow trees. Giant, old growth, rainforest trees that have these broken ledges, and they were nesting in hollow trees, which you don't think of a peregrine falcon doing that. You picture them on these high ledges, but they're adaptable. They're good at what they do. But we wanted to talk today, too, a little bit about some of the subspecies. Right now, there's 19 recognized subspecies of peregrines, and again, living almost everywhere in the world. But I think I've flown the peales, the Anatum, peales Anatum crosses, which is not a hybrid, it's a subspecies cross. Cassinis from South America, and British peregrine. I think, and the barberry. Barberry is one that some people consider to be, used to be considered a peregrine subspecies, and now they're like, it's its own species that branched off from peregrines. So I've flown one of those. But we want to talk a little bit about these. John, you said you're getting a peregrine this year?
Yeah. I'm going to be getting a peregrine this year. And the type that I'm going to be getting, I'll put on the screen now, is the Peales peregrine. It is, I don't know, just the way that they look, the heavy barring is something that I've always been interested in, the really dark cap, dark back. It's just a look that I like. So that's the one that I'm going to go for. They're a little bit larger than your Anatum or tundra.
Yeah, peales are the biggest subspecies of all the peregrines too. So they're good sized bird, a good proper falcon. But yeah, they are powerful birds. And very distinct looking, like you said, really thick bars. But anytime any peregrine you're going to fly, I think is going to be a good bird. But the Peales is a little bit tenacious. It kind of has a reputation for having a bit of an attitude,
like prairie. I don't know if it's a similar kind of. I don't have any experience with them yet, so I can't tell you. Well, it's like a prairie falcon's attitude, but the same comments are made of the two. From what I can see, is that they both kind of have an edge to them.
They're still way easier to train and easier to work with, in my opinion, than a prairie. But of all the peregrines I've flown, they seem to be kind of have that edge the most. Always gripping. Any Peales, male or female, I've ever had, no matter how I've trained them, it doesn't matter if it was parent raised or imprinted. It's like most birds are not just gripping all the time. They're just gently standing unless there's food involved, and then they're gripping. Peales are like, it's like they're always just digging in, which I like. You can always feel their power. They're just, that's just been my personal experience. But that's the only peregrines that I've ever hunted geese with have been female Peales.
Mine will be a male Peales, but my target is ducks and then chuckers and pheasants and things like that. So chuckers, if I can get them in a good position, will be that. But mostly, I think that it's going to be primarily ducks, and I think that a male Peales is a good size for that. I mean, again, I don't have tons of experience with them, so or much at all in terms of like firsthand. But that's what I understand. I've asked a lot from you and from other falconers. Been researching, and I've talked to the breeder, which that's going to give me some information to go off of. I've worked with prairie falcons. I've had a couple of gyr peregrines, but I didn't get those all the way to hunting with the gyr peregrines due to life reasons, really.
Peregrines are such a joy, though, and Peales are just, they hit, any peregrine is going to hit hard, but there is nothing like a Peales peregrine. Just, they seem denser, even though, yes, they are bigger. If you've worked with a lot of raptors, you will notice, this is the difference between birders and falconers. A birder is going off, what's the wingspan? What's the length from the head to the end of the tail, right?
What's the coloration?
You can have birds that technically have the same dimension, like a male red-tailed hawk and a northern harrier.
Male western Cooper's hawks and female Sharpies. They have very similar coloration and very similar size.
But the density can be so different.
Coopers are way denser.
Yeah, you can have the same length, and yet, this bird weighs as much as 4 of those, but they have the same wingspan, they have the same length, and it seems like Peales have a little more density. So this is gonna be your first pure peregrine, I think you said, right?
Yeah, first pure peregrine, which is silly. I mean, for someone who has come up, loving my side of the mountain and wanting to do it, it's just that the stars have never aligned for me. The opportunities that I had to get a bird when I got my gyr peregrine, I only could find gyr peregrines that were local, and those that they had them, and that were in the price range that I could spend. So I bought one. But I mean, I guess it was lucky because I wasn't able to get it to do falconry that year. I took a big break after that because of just physical problems. But yeah, just the way that everything has worked out, I haven't flown a peregrine. I got the opportunity to, if you remember, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But the nest didn't work out, and so I didn't end up getting to fly him.
We were going to do we were looking at nests in Utah. He drew out with a Utah wild take permit, which should have been an Anatum, which we'll get to next, that subspecies. And yeah, keyed in on a nest. We're checking it. It was doing good. And then went down to Peale, and ravens had kicked him out, taken him over, killed the babies or something, and ravens were in the nest. And it's like, are you kidding me? All the gas, all the mileage back and forth. It's disheartening. But yeah, I mean, so I'm glad you're getting it. It's going to be fun looking forward, and you can be able to show people the updates when you're raising it and everything. But the next bird we want to talk about, the next subspecies, then let's talk a little bit about Anatums. And the Anatum peregrine it's kind of the mainland United States peregrine. It was really more of a Western bird. We won't get too much into the reasons why and the whole DDT thing. You can watch our other videos where we talk more about that. But kind of the continental peregrine, so to speak, but definitely Western. Now, in Utah, our Anatum peregrines first of all, they're smaller than a peales. And usually as an adult, they're quite red. They can be white-chested and cream all the way to vibrant red. So you're looking at one here, but also by comparison, the main screen we have behind us while we're filming that you see, that's kind of the logo for the podcast, that is also an Anatum. And you see how stinking red and pink that bird is. So Anatums they can be decent sized. I've seen some really big females. So I would consider them medium to large on the worldwide spectrum of all the different subspecies. But Anatums are the best peregrines I've had a chance to fly. They are just really, really good to work with, especially the males. They're accessible. They're highly migratory. They are the most common, both in the wild and I think usually in the captive bred American market is probably mostly what we see. I don't know. Have you seen? You remember Tiger and Saber?
Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, so they're some of my favorites that we flew years ago. But very consistent. But one of the nice things I liked about their adaptability, they don't have the edginess of a peales. And like one of my favorite things to do was to hunt chucker partridge off the fist, which we'll go out in the high deserts of Utah, and we have these big rock escarpments in the middle of the desert, and you go around and you have to scramble up there, and you never know. I wasn't using dogs, so you never know when a partridge is going to just explode out. It might happen above you, it might happen below you, and I finally kind of honed in an area where they would flush below me. And it might be 20 feet below me, it might be 70 feet below me on the hill. So I just go walking along with Tiger, and as soon as one, because you knew more are going to come out, and he just, okay, boom, and you might have a shallow hit. I didn't care. I was hunting partridge, and he did a great job. It might be 100-foot stoop, might be a little bit of a tail chase, or it might be just super close, just direct horizontal flight, depending on how they flushed. That's not normal. That's not a normal traditional peregrine flight style, but it worked for me. He went after everything, pheasants and partridge and ducks and pigeons, doves, mourning doves, ringneck doves. He was great. And that's not what I prefer. I prefer to fly a big, giant, black female peales, but I really think kind of the best is a male Anatum as far as temperament and easy of flight, dependability, that sort of thing. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts weighing in on Anatums?
Yeah, I think Anatums, I'm interested in flying those as well. Mm-hmm. But I figured since I was going for one, I would go for, the subspecies that I thought kind of looked the neatest to me. I totally admit that was the driving factor behind it. I'm not really afraid of the attitude from peales because, the last few years I've been flying accipiters. I should be used to the attitude by now, and even Merlins. I mean, they're quite like that. But the Anatums I think are really neat. I think that the variation, like the really far north ones, like almost the tundra peregrine areas, are almost completely white on the chest. Up high, I mean, they still have the striping, but like there's not as much flush color through them. And then the southern ones look a lot like the ones that we're seeing on the podcast right there. It's just
Red Rock Country birds with a Red Rock Country chest.
So I think that if I did do an Anatum, I think I would be really tempted to do like one of the southern Utah ones, with that really red chest,
rich coloration.
Just the variation, just that the neat differences between the northern ones, because the Peales is a northern bird, so it's a very heavily striped, but it's gonna be completely white underneath. It's not gonna have much cream color at all, not like you get with Anatums anyway. Yeah. So I'm really interested in that, and I think that if you were to describe a perfect falconry bird that's a falcon, because a lot of people, if we say, well, it's the perfect falconry bird, they're going to be like, but my Harris, which, speaking of cliches, that's the more modern one. The Peregrine's probably the quintessential falcon, and then Anatum, for at least American falconers, that's the quintessential Peregrine.
And it's interesting, too, the more I think, because we're going to, by the way, maybe I didn't fully spell this out in the beginning. This video, this is two passionate falconers with ADD shooting the breeze about what we think is the best falcon species to fly. This isn't all encompassing. I'm working on a video that will cover every subspecies of peregrine. I'm also, I can't remember, this is coming out before. I have a video coming up that is just on peales and Anatum, a little more in depth as far as ID and everything. But I just want to kind of go over a few either that we love or have had experience with subspecies, or that are definitely noteworthy and worth mentioning. If you look at these Utah peregrines here with the Anatums, with the red, you're not going to see that in a field guide. If you, what are the peregrines of the world? If you look at Anatums, it'll show you, there's a little bit of faint red, a little bit of color. It's like, you have no idea how red and vibrant orange they can actually be.
Actually, I have a picture that when I was looking up some images to kind of use for this thing, I found just that. And here, I'm going to
let's take a look.
Save that right here. And we'll show you.
The magic of technology.
Through the magic of technology, here it is. See, these are some of the ones they have, but these are from other places in the world. Let me show you. This isn't the actual image that I was grabbing. Sorry. Some of the ones from North America are incredible because it's almost like three of the same birds. But I will. But
you're not going to see normally the red, unless there's one we're going to talk. We'll talk about a black shaheen in a minute. But we got to do the red nape first. But it's interesting because you always see on the red nape shaheen peregrine and the black shaheen peregrine depictions of the red chest, and you usually don't on the Anatum. Let's see. You got another one pulled up?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I did not have the one that I wanted right away. This is the one that I saw. It just kind of looked similar. So yeah, this is. Seriously, look. They're the way that they've got this depicted, and of course, I'm guessing from the look of the image, this isn't a very new image. It's kind of older.
Yeah.
But I mean, the tundra, the peales, and the Anatum don't.
And the Aleutian Island peales, but we won't get into that. But yeah, if you look at these three, so if I'm looking at the screen right, the upper left is Anatum, and you have some faint red and orange, and you look to the upper right, you have the tundra, which is the tundrises are the furthest north peregrines. They're usually the small. We have 3 peregrines that we should encounter in the United States these days, and that's the Anatum, the tundris, and the peales. And the tundris on the left, smallest. They're often very blonde-headed their first year. These are depictions of adults.
You can kind of see the lightning on top, and I don't know if that's intentional or not, and you can definitely see that there's a little bit of a lighter color on the back. More of a slate gray than a slate gray blue. Yeah. Which is what you're going to kind of get over here from what I've seen.
Yeah, Anatums are usually more standard blue on the back. We're not getting into tundrises. They can be trapped in certain states in the United States with a trapping permit, migrating, beach trapping. We're not getting into it in this video. They're great birds, the people who have flown the blonde passage tundrises, but we're talking more about these we've had more experience with. So the peales down on the bottom, much thicker bars, and you can see this is a pretty accurate depiction here, where around the crop area you have more vertical stripe, kind of teardrop. And then down below, the flanks, the belly, the underwings, these super, super thick horizontal bars. And you'll see on I'll have some more side-by-side comparisons on the video coming up. I think it's probably this upcoming Monday, I think is when I have that going to post. But they're darker, they're more defined. I got to tell you, too, the peales are coastal. They're Pacific Northwest, and their range is really broad, north to south, following Alaska and the Pacific, Canada and northwestern states, but it's not deep. It usually, according to studies anyways, I haven't studied their biology directly as a biologist, but supposedly they don't normally go inland more than 8 miles as far as their nesting hunting range. They're on the coast hunting enormous seabirds. And, peregrines will hunt stuff as small as a sparrow, small as a chickadee, all the way up to big stuff. But these coastal peales are just hammering seabirds. And, oh, good. I just got a message from somebody. There's a picture I'm hoping to include. Hopefully we'll be able to include a picture. I just got a falconer on the other side of the world from Utah right now that I just sent a message to asking if we can use pictures of a bird we're going to talk about in a minute. That is one that he bred. But I wanted to get his permission.
I just ruthlessly stole all those other images. So
yeah, but you're just online. We're doing it live. You're just enjoying with this. This is one a first year bird that I've never seen images of. So, so peales amazing, Anatum amazing. But now and the tundris birds that migrate in, they're great too. I haven't flown one. I've been invited a few times to go beach trapping and haven't been able to make it. And hopefully that'll be great to just, go just like the old-fashioned way. But the next
one of these days,
we'll do it. How fun would that be?
That'd be awesome.
Bury yourself in the sand, or it's fun form of trapping. But we have to give a shout out to the red-naped shaheen peregrine. Now, the red-naped shaheen peregrine is an old world species of the desert, and as an adult, it'll have a chest usually as red as the bird in this background. But the head gets red too, almost reminiscent of a lanner falcon, where they have, just kind of like they'll still have the mallard stripes, but they'll have kind of this tan to red to rusty brown head, very pale. Like they're becoming more and more pale to match the desert where they live. Good camouflage, whatever. Look like a rock. But I have not had the chance to fly one. I did fly a hybrid between a gyr. There you go. That's a good one. That's not as vibrant as some pictures, but that's a good picture. So
it does look a lot like a lanner.
It does. It's got a super narrow mallard stripe, even though it's a hag, it's an adult. Look at the feathers on the back. I mean, those shoulder and wing feathers are the same color as a South African lanner. And even where the circle comes around, it show up under the bottom of the mallard stripe, you see that there, right there. Okay, you see that little section that curves up, that dark section? Again, very much like a lot of the classic African lanners and Arabian lanners, not the Mediterranean ones so much. But it does look like a beefy, super powerfully built lanner falcon, kind of inhabiting some of the same space, but not necessarily some of the same lifestyle. Now, I've flown one of these crossed with a gyr. It was a good bird, really good bird. And I keep missing my opportunities to fly a pure red-naped shaheen. Everybody I talk to, both in America, who's flown a wide range of peregrines, and people who fly these red-naped shaheens in their native countries, say they are the best, even better than a male Anatum. Apparently, they are super hard-hitting, big, really big, powerful falcon, but loyal almost to a fault, almost like a Harris hawk or red-tailed hawk. So,
those are some big claims.
Yeah, those are some biggies. I think they're really, really, really neat and really beautiful. But the weirdest thing, again, it's like you're kind of colored like a lanner because the land is shaping you, but you're not competing with a lanner. You're filling slightly different roles, even though you're both bigger falcons. Lanner falcons are lower on the food chain, lower on the pecking order of the raptor hierarchy within an area. We don't get this in America. In our areas, we'll have there's peregrines, and maybe you have prairie falcons, and that's it. Most areas will have multiple large falcons, small, lots of medium, and then several large. You got sakers and lanners and red-naped shaheens, and then a bunch of different species of kestrels. We don't have that here. No. And so our prairies and peregrines don't cross over much. They're kind of do their thing. So it's interesting to us, the concept of multiple falcons in an area. So hopefully we'll get the chance to fly one someday. But I want to do a shout out because a lot of people on this channel have do a video on them. I would love to do a video more in depth, but I just have a severe lack of photos and videos of them, and I would like to have more of that to go with it. So hopefully I'll be able to do that. Now the next one is one of my dream birds, and that is the black shaheen. It's kind of a falcon that we find, and I'm gonna, if you can find some photos, do. But even so, I've got some saved that I will plug in because I have to specify. First of all, when it comes to the color black, you have to understand when we're talking about color, white is, light shooting at you contains all the colors of the rainbow. White shoots all those colors back at you. Pure true black absorbs all those colors. Normally when you see a bird that is quote unquote black, it's not black. It's a very thick melanistic bird. So it's not true black. Usually it's an extremely dark brown. So it's reflecting back some warm colors. The black shaheens that I want to fly, there you go. That's the kind. This is not what you normally see in captive breeding programs because they have quite a range, from India to China and all over. And the ones that I have seen falconers fly and ones that I have seen on the other side of the world falconers flying are from a area closer to the desert. So it's got a chest that is not quite so pink, not quite so, and the black isn't quite so black. It almost looks like a black shaheen crossed with a red-naped shaheen. But these, I don't know. I hear they are great birds to fly. They have enormous feet, but again, it's more the colors because it's just like pink and orange and true black. I love the ones that are true black. And again, hopefully I have pictures that I can throw up on this. That one, that's pretty black. It's not very red. Well, it looks like it's got some red around the chest, but look at that. You're not even seeing any stripes or barring at all on those coverts. Anything on the back and the shoulders, you're not even seeing stripes. It's a very uniform looking bird. Even the tail, they're beautiful birds. So I don't know of anybody who breeds those. There's several people in the States here who breed the red napes, but I don't know anybody who breeds the black shaheens. If you're in the States and you know somebody who does, let us know. That'd be great to have that working knowledge. But really cool birds. And then the next one is the Cassini. The Cassini is the South American peregrine that is sometimes referred to as the definitive peregrine because they have such a very distinct geographic range with no real input from other peregrines that their appearance, their markings are quite uniform, surprisingly uniform from bird to bird, which you don't have. Like the Anatums, it's a crapshoot. I mean, you got some that are white-chested, some that are fluorescent pink on the chest, and it's still an Anatum. But the Cassinis, they're very uniform, both as first years and as adults. I've only flown one. They're really pretty birds. I think I got some pictures I can throw up here that of the one I flew, but they are very large, not as big as the peales, but they are very good sized peregrines, hard hitting. So they have, in my opinion, the good of a peales peregrine, but with a very nice attitude. Not to the level of an Anatum, but very nice to work with. In the States here, when I've seen them for sale, they're usually kind of pricey. But so is everything these days, right? But here's the weird thing about Cassinis. They can just be, I'm a regular-looking Cassini, but they have a pallid gene that is very rare. And hopefully I have permission to show a first year. And after, when we're done with this, I'm going to send him a message real quick and ask my friend if we can use his images. He's here in Utah. He bred some, and he had a pallid bird. Now, as an adult, here's a clip. The pallid Cassinis as an adult are very white. They have a very white head, very pale, very, very odd-looking bird. But as a first year, their first year colors, they almost look like a female American kestrel. It's really cool looking and wild and weird. And again, hopefully right now you're looking at pictures that after this video is done, I asked if I could use my friend's picture. He'll probably let me. He's really cool about it. But, always good to ask permission on something when it's a bird you bred specifically. So
yeah, the internet wasn't very useful on finding good pictures of those.
Mm-hmm.
None of them that are like recognizable as such. So
as a Cassini, I know I've got a few pictures.
Just a quick search, but
of my hag that I flew. That came originally out of a breeding project, and a lot of breeders, if somebody gives you a breeding bird, usually if it's a falcon, usually they're pretty psycho and don't go back into falconry very well if it's been years. And this one, she's like, "Hi, how you doing? Well, we're gonna do falconry. Okay, let's go back to flying." She was a gem. She was wonderful to work with. So those are kind of the main peregrines I wanted to talk about. There are a lot of peregrine subspecies all over the world that we could get into. But those are some that I think are either very important as far as the regions that they're used in, or experiences you and I have had ourselves. I don't know. That's kind of my main thing, because, again, you're never going to go wrong. If you have open country and you have prey and you want to fly a long wing, you cannot go wrong flying a peregrine. They're great. I said before, it's like my favorite bird to fly, my favorite falcon is a lanner falcon, but that's not my favorite to fly. My favorite falcon to fly is a peregrine, and I think they've well earned it.
Absolutely.
Well, any other thoughts on peregrines for today's video?
Oh, goodness. For today, probably not, but there might be a heck of a lot more on the next time we decide to talk about peregrines or their subspecies, because, can have a bit more experience with them, and who knows, maybe some positive or negative thoughts about a particular subspecies.
Isn't it weird? It's January, it's below freezing, and we're in baby mode. We're like, all right, it's almost spring. It's time to start thinking about your baby, and you're gonna have a peales in a few months. It's weird. And It's weird that bird doesn't exist. That egg hasn't even been laid, and yet we can talk about a bird that in just a few months is going to be here.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's not like a human baby where you're talking about this super long gestation. It's like, hey, in a few months, boom, egg, boom, baby, and then you're flying in a few months. That bird's diving hundreds of miles an hour and knocking things out of the air. It's a strange thing. Baby season is strange. It's pretty neat.
It is. It's an exciting time. I mean, I always enjoy it, but I'm really trying not to get too focused on it, because I got these two that I'm still trying to work with. So
still in the middle of the end of the hunting season, right?
End of the hunting season.
Yeah.
So she's been going for a little while, but he's just getting going. We trapped him later.
Yeah. Which nothing wrong with that,
yeah.
Especially with Merlins. They hit the ground running.
Absolutely.
Well, before we end, last week we showed this skull, and we said we're going to do a skull each week. Many of you got it right. This is the skull of an emu, ratate, a large flightless bird. So well done, those of you who got it. And that leads us to this week's skull, which is a cast. So you can get this. This is a strange animal. Let's see if you can get it. Very huge jaws, small eye socket, rather rectangular shape other than the snout. Looking at the teeth, you can see the front teeth there. See the molars to give you some clues there. Very big, robust jaw. So hopefully this strange animal, somebody can get it. The head looks nothing like the shape of this animal. So don't let that be your clue. We'll see if you can get it for next week. Everybody be sure to check out John's channel. Again, remember you can see it in the description for this video. And let us know what other videos and topics you would like us to cover and shoot the breeze about and get our opinions on. John, anything else?
That's it for me.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. And as always, happy hawking.